Hungary definitely had its feel of variety, of change up, of different things to happen. Russell gets his first pole position, so big congratulations to Russell. Ferrari would seem to look like they'll be back, but I mean, we've seen this before. We've seen Ferrari land at the top of qualifying, whether it be 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 5, whatever the case may be. They seem to do better at qualifying than they actually do in the race. And that's a situation and an issue for Ferrari, as they seem to be giving this championship away to whether it be Red Bull or next in line, which is more than likely Red Bull at this point in time. Charles has cost himself several points to where he could be in a championship battle, if not leading the championship at this time. And Ferrari have cost their drivers problems with being unreliable. With that being the case today, just in qualifying alone, we definitely had a lot of things transpire. Like I said, Russell gets his first pole. Ferrari bounces back, but more than bounce back, McLaren shows some promise to see that these upgrades may indeed be coming alive. And Lando lands at the top, same distance with Ricardo. I don't know what's going to go on with him, but we got a good mixture. I think this is going to make for a very interesting GP off the back. I know this is not a big track that often overtaking happens often. Maybe more than Monaco, definitely, but still limited compared to other tracks. But I still think this could be interesting, especially if we get wet conditions, right? Hamilton with DRS issues, and that's, people shouldn't make a lot about that. These things happen. It happened to Max. It can happen to Hamilton. It can happen to anybody. We've seen side pods blown off this season. We've seen all types of things, tires falling off before teams were really ready for them. So there's been a mixture of things. So there's going to be some work to be done here, but we're here to talk about these power elements, these replacements that are going to start costing teams and drivers grid penalties. And we've already seen it starting to take place with Ferrari. And now I think it's going to happen with Red Bull, given that Max had a failure. I haven't seen anything officially yet, but something is going to have to be replaced. So we'll end up going over these lists, and I'm going to add a list to this bunch, as there are a lot of teams that are right there and about to cross the line and hit grid penalties. And I think if Max has to have one of these components replaced, it's quite possible that he could see a grid penalty tomorrow in tomorrow's GP. And that would place him probably to the back of the grid. Right now, he's 10th. Sergio is 11th because he didn't make it. So being 10th, let's say they give him a 5-place grid penalty, depending on what it may be, that would put him in 15. And that's definitely not where he would want to be. Although those drivers right there, and Joe and Mick, Lance, Kevin, Perez, I don't see him having a problem getting by those drivers. The problem is the bottleneck's going to happen with Alonso and Hamilton. We know Alonso's going to be a cop blocker, not want to let Hamilton through. And we've seen in races previously, when Alonso blocks, it's a stalemate from Alonso back. So it's going to be very beneficial for Lewis Hamilton to get past Alonso so that he can avoid that in that first lap. Max likely will not do that right off the back, having Daniel and Bottas in front of him. And if he hits this grid penalty, he's going to have enough traffic between him going from Lance Stroll, Kevin, Joe, and then Perez on up. So let's look at these lists real quick. Let's look at the power unit list. Go off this. So right here, power units, we got several teams that are right there. Okay. So, Charles is just about to hit the penalty, if depending on what it is, for grid penalties for exhaust. I think you're only allowed 8. He's already at 7. So in control units, you're allowed 3? No, 2. So he's over on that. Then you have the energy stores. You're allowed what on that? That probably also might be 2 or 3. He's right there. He's at 2, so he's probably at the max for that. You got MGUH, MGUKs. He's already over for that. You got turbochargers and the combustion engines, and he's over for that. Okay, so he's over for that. Anything else that happens with Ferrari, aside from doing anything for reliability purposes, grid penalties. Sainz in the same situation in several categories. Besides for exhaust, he's got a few more before he ends up running out of his lives on that. But everything else, he's right over that and are at the door. Then you have Alonso from Alpine right at that, aside from exhaust, grid penalty territory all day. Yuki damn sure encroaching grid penalty territory. Alfa Romeo with Bottas, he just received the upgrades for that team, and definitely I don't think they're running them on Zhou's cars right now, but he definitely is right there for grid penalties, right? And then you got Haas, just major upgrades, the right Ferrari, and they're running them on Kevin's car. Anything else happens, he's over several categories and going to be hitting grid penalties for that. So these are the drivers that are definitely right there that are in grid penalty galore territory. If anything else goes wrong or any type of failure happens and they have to replace these components, these elements, they're facing grid penalties. And the teams that are going to be affected the most by that are the teams that are going to be impacted the most, because all these teams will be affected the most if that happens as far as their points or drive. But Ferrari and Red Bull and Mercedes would be impacted the most, given that they are sitting at the top of the Constructors' Championships right now, 1, 2, and 3. So let's look at this, okay? Because this is a list that we haven't really taken a lot of look into. And there are several drivers' teams that are at the limit, if not over. And I highlighted Max Verstappen because the limit, I believe, in this is 3. Now, I'm jumping on here off criminal knowledge. I didn't go ahead and try to research this and see about this. I'm just jumping off thinking like vaguely, I think I remember the limit being 3. Because I believe before we went into a video and I talked about Mick, and Mick was going to be receiving a grid penalty because he was already at 3 and he would be at 4. And as you see down there at the end of the list, he is at 4. Well, the next driver to hit 4 is going to be Zhou, and then it was Valtteri. Okay, so if you come up from that, if anything is wrong with Max's car where this cassette or gearbox has to be replaced, in order to get ready for tomorrow's race, he's going to get a penalty. He's going to get a grid penalty, and he's going to be further behind than he would like to be. But that's not saying that you can count Max Verstappen out, all right? Now, I don't discount Max Verstappen's ability, his talent to drive, his growing knowledge of how to run the car, run the tracks, how to implement strategies and overtakes and DRS and all this good stuff, because he's been learning from drivers he's been driving against. He's learned quite a bit from Charles alone this season, but he's learned more than ever from driving against Lewis Hamilton, Seb, Alonso, Valtteri. He's driven against a lot of seasoned and very high elite drivers, and he's been battling against the GOAT for a time now. So with the right car, which he has had and he does have, I don't know why people want to try to act like Lewis Hamilton's only had a competitive car. No, Max has had a competitive car. Valtteri's had a competitive car. Sergio has a competitive car now. And I would like to fair and say that given if this McLaren glimpse of hope actually is or holds true, Lando and them might be starting to get a competitive car under themselves. We also will be waiting to see if Haas has delivered upgrades that will really be upgrades, right? That word and terminology is tricky because you think upgrade, it should automatically be better. But in fact, this is not the case. And we've already seen that with Williams. Nothing substantial happened there. We've seen that with Mercedes right out of the back when they dropped the new minimal side pod look, thinking it was just going to be boom, and it's been a struggle for that. So these upgrades are not upgrades, they're changes, and until those changes prove to be on the upward side of things, it's not an upgrade. It could be a downgrade. So a change, that's what we should call them, changes. So we'll see if these changes that take place will happen. But one thing that will be very impactful for the race tomorrow is if Max Verstappen gets a grid penalty, it puts him further behind not only his teammate, but the top 5, and it is very mixed up there, and I like it. I thought the mix would be more like Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren, and quite possibly Mercedes, or quite possibly McLaren. I thought it would be Mercedes, Red Bull, and Ferrari, and quite possibly McLaren. McLaren showed up, Ferrari's there, Mercedes is there, and Red Bull's taking some slide back. I know a lot of people were speculating if they were running a different flow on Perez's car versus Max's car. Perez definitely wasn't doing well today, and then Max ended up having some mechanical issues, And if this does indeed happen in the race tomorrow and Ferrari can stay reliable and the drivers can drive at their best without pushing and making unneeded mistakes, Ferrari could gain some ground in this championship bout. However, Mercedes doing well doesn't put them like right in the midst of the championship fight, but it definitely helps improve their position and also the morale for their garage to know that they may be making steady progress moving forward. Remember, if George Russell goes out for some unneeded reason, other teams or other drivers beneath him benefit from that. Everybody. Okay, because he's up front. So don't forget that. Don't say foolish things. All right, well, this is it. We're going to be game time tomorrow. You know we're going to be here. By the way, if any of you are wondering, the VIP program, those are all those bottles we've been popping for these podiums. Wondering the VIP box, somebody is getting presented their VIP box tier 1 tomorrow for the finale lap. So please, if you could, stop on by, be here to congratulate them as I would ask them to do for you when it is time for you. You get these by accumulating points by doing super chats, super likes, super stickers, all of that stuff. It's my way to give back to you all for supporting the channel. Comes with merch and other little goodies in there, including the gold coin. Now, your first gold coin won't come in this suspended stand. This is for the tier 2 program, but you do still get your gold coin and a bunch of other things. So I appreciate you all. Come back to the channel, like, subscribe, share. Peace. Thanks for tuning in and watching another video here at Wolfpack Performance. Check out some of my other content on Formula One issues, our topics, and our DIY products on how to customize your vehicle. Don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe. See you soon.